These are some of the most downright nasty dishes to have ever been served on MasterChef. And what this contestant served up was not only disgusting, but sparked a huge controversy too. You see, Leslie's win in Season 5, Episode 11's Mystery Box Challenge led to a series of competitive maneuvers that targeted Daniel. The gambit involved challenging everyone to cook an unfamiliar pasta type, leaving Daniel at a disadvantage by restricting him to a roller instead of a pasta machine.
I mean, are you surprised that Leslie singled you out here?
No, Chef. Because Leslie is a petty man, precisely the type of behavior I expect from him.
Believe me, their rivalry was iconic. Faced with this challenge, he made short rib caramel with tamarind curry. However, it was far from up to par. Chef Ramsay slammed the dish because it suffered from being completely imbalanced, with more pasta than filling.
I'd like to congratulate you on standing out tonight, possibly outside the door.
Moreover, the overwhelming spiciness made it inedible. And when Chef Ramsay prodded Daniel for his take, he got real defensive.
I wish I had made the caramelli smaller. I enjoy the sauce.
However, the famous chef shut Daniel down mid-sentence, putting him on blast for his complete delusion.
And
Stop there. Good night.
Thank you, Chef.
Gee, I feel secondhand embarrassment for the guy. And to just rub some salt into the wound, Elliot pretty much parroted everything Chef Ramsay had to say too.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So out of line with what we showed and what we were asking.
But then came Joe, being Italian is my entire personality bastinage.
Looks more like a steamed dumpling in a Chinese restaurant.
Noted.
Pardon my French, but what the fuck? His critique felt like a throwback to a time when French and Italian cuisine were considered the pinnacle of fine dining, and every other culture's cuisine wasn't even a consideration.
You think that could ever be served in an Italian restaurant?
Not in an Italian restaurant.
He sees anything outside the cultural comfort zone of the West as less refined for him, and this is far from the only time he said stuff like this. See, it's obviously not about dissing European cuisine, it's about the disrespect shown towards other culinary traditions. Many Asian dishes demand just as much labor and craftsmanship as European fare, if not more. But Joe's worldview seems confined to a belief that only Western cuisines embody refinement. It's honestly something that really gets under my skin every time he does it. But here's some perspective. An Asian viewer on Reddit said, "I do not use the word racist lightly, but Joe's pattern behavior towards Asian cuisine is racist. I, as an Asian woman, have experienced no shortage of racist insults towards my culture's food, and I have every right to call it out when I see it." Joe's comments stem from racist and outdated views on cuisine. It's not just viewers though. Many investigations have exposed his targeted comments, and the more you look, the more you'll find. Well, honestly, I think he's on the judges panel just for drama's sake. And if you feel the same, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And by the way, you can now become a member of my channel by hitting this tab right here. From crazy behind the scenes moments to having your own custom emojis, you can now win some really cool prizes by just becoming a member of the channel. But in the meantime, let's talk about this next contestant who had some really questionable skills.
I'm going to single out one dish that stood out. Jennifer,
Okay, wait for it.
your dish definitely stood out. Unfortunately, for all the wrong reasons.
Looks like she got bent? Anyway, let me ask you this, is Jennifer Bem the worst winner in US MasterChef history? I say, yeah. For one thing, the C in Jennifer Bem stands for consistency.
What are you thinking about trying to serve us raw food? We're watching you cook, we're not idiots.
Now, it's a perplexing paradox. She showcased flashes of promise, but muddied it all down with way too many moments of abysmal failure. So, in the elimination test in episode 13, when she presented her ground pork patty, right off the bat, Chef Ramsay was appalled.
What the hell were you thinking?
It's what I grew up with.
So if it's that what you grew up with, then this should be mind-blowing.
0 on presentation. Let that set the stage for what's about to come. Because if we're talking flavor, well...
Disgusting. Because that is a joke. Not impressed.
Oh yeah, believe me, it completely deserved that thrashing.
And I think one of your weakest performances in this competition.
He also implied that she hadn't broken a sweat while making it. And we all know how important blood, sweat, and tears are for making art, right?
You don't look like you've achieved much.
I'm sure he had a lot more to say, but only managed to get this out.
I'm going to stop there.
Joe, on the other hand, was furious. He chucked her plate into the trash like usual, like it had personally offended him, grumbling about how it was a waste of everyone's time.
This is a great example of what garbage is.
Well, she was definitely lucky she didn't get eliminated that night, and even luckier that Christian messed up in the final 3. Another standout dish from the season is Trump's biggest fan, Max Kramer. The steaming pile of crêpe and mascarpone layer cake he made resulted in one of the most iconic lines in the history of the show.
It's like I've just gone to the doctors for a skin graft on my butt.
Yeah.
And stuck it in caramel.
Dude is the wordsmith of the century. If you ask me, I think the judges had an absolute riot over the dish. They couldn't stop laughing at how absurd it was. Seriously, what was this? 15 crepes piled together like the Leaning Tower of pastry?
There's no sweetness. I don't get a lot of coffee flavor at all. I would be worried, actually, with what you made here.
But I mean, if you're gonna do that, you may as well make it sweet, right? Or, well, have any flavor whatsoever. You might as well have stacked paper towels instead. However, can you take a wild guess what was worse than this crepe disaster? It was a shotgun wedding between good old beef and, drumroll please, strawberries.
I made a peanut butter and jelly 5-spice spring roll and strawberry pieces and a sriracha jelly dipping sauce.
Congrats, Shelly, that had to have been the stupidest thing I've said all day. Anyway, in Season 6, Episode 10's Elimination Challenge, our gorgeous diva Tommy gave the contestants the challenge of making an elevated dish with PB&J at its heart. And she immediately dove into the challenge by forgetting the main ingredients from the pantry.
Shelly, what's up? Why are you shaking your head?
I didn't get peanut butter and jelly.
It's mind-boggling how she managed to dodge elimination after emptying 2 full baskets from the pantry while missing everything that was essential. She then found herself relying on the kindness of fellow competitors. Hital and Olivia generously offered her some last-minute support.
I only have crunchy extra.
I don't care, I'll take whatever. Thank you.
However, what followed was not a stroke of improvised genius, but rather a mismatched attempt at creativity that was just plain revolting.
Is this dish good enough to get yourself in the top 10?
I'm really proud of my dish.
The discord between the ingredients was unmistakable, leading Chef Ramsay to voice his discontent and regrets in the funniest way possible.
That looks like a stuffed condom. It's just way off the mark.
Yeah, it was a dish that was as strange and unappetizing as it sounded. But Shelly seemed bizarrely proud of it. Go figure. Basically, if you've watched this episode, you know that Sarah got kicked out because she talked back. There's absolutely no way her dish was worse than Shelly's though, period.
Ground beef and strawberries do not go. Ever. You're not going to convince me. Ever.
So, what's worse according to you? Mixing white chocolate with seafood or strawberries with meat? It's a damn shame the two were never on the same show at the same time. Anyway, while you think about that, I'm heading over to Season 4. There was a moment when Lynn's pink poo in the $5 Walmart Bake Sale Elimination Challenge fell drastically short of meeting the judges' expectations, both in terms of flavor and aesthetics.
That's incredible.
Are you serious?
Their reaction was nothing short of astonishment as the dish came walking up. The presentation seemed to draw the harshest criticism, leaving the judges wondering if they were getting pranked and the real fish would be brought up any second now.
What is it?
It's a baked meringue, macerated strawberries on top, and a banana puree.
Calling it the worst dish served since the inception of the show, Chef Ramsay highlighted the 1,000,001 flaws that rendered this dish not just subpar, but downright nasty.
Wall insulator with some strawberry or banana that your granddad left under his bed before he passed.
On the other hand, Joe mocked him mercilessly, dangling the dish in front of him, saying,
They raise you up so high, and then you fall.
Emotional damage, right? After tossing it out like the garbage that it was, he grabbed the empty plate in order to show the complete absence of any redeeming qualities.
Might be a memento for you to take home.
God, I don't even know what to say here. But the criticism was valid and stemmed not just from the dish's horrid appearance, but also from its taste and overall execution. Eventually, Lynn found himself in the bottom 3 alongside James and Chrissy, ultimately getting eliminated in that episode. Raise your hand if that surprised you. No takers? I figured. Now, this really reminded me of what happened in Season 11 when the top 10 were faced with their greatest challenge yet. Chef Ramsay revealed a mystery box that had California's finest ingredients. That being Santa Barbara prawns, sea urchin, wasabi, avocado, and grapefruit. What's more, these weren't just any ingredients. They were a tribute to the legendary guest judge, Jonathan Waxman.
All of you, please welcome the legendary Jonathan Waxman.
During the cooking period, Joseph unfortunately found himself in some hot water, quite literally. He ended up throwing the prawns on the heat with a whopping 35 minutes still on the clock. Chef Ramsay made it clear, cooking the hero ingredient way too early was a recipe for disaster. This practically guaranteed Joseph a one-way ticket to the bottom 3.
These are already dry,
They're
and
overcooked.
they're overcooked, and they're continuing to cook because this is hot.
In a stroke of luck, Joseph managed to wrangle a few spare prawns from Anne and Lexi, but the situation had him rattled. The judges kept a watchful eye on Joseph's every move, assessing his frantic attempts to turn things around.
He's cooked every prawn, and they're overcooked. They're like rubber. So he has to start again.
But he somehow managed to stumble through making a prawn pasta with uni cream, as well as avocado, grapefruit, and uni in grapefruit ponzu. But don't let that pretty appetizing description fool you. It was awful. Owning up to his mistakes, he openly acknowledged that the dish fell far from what he had envisioned conceptually.
Can I ask you one question? If you had to redo this dish, would you do it this way?
No.
And the judges were at a loss for words. Aaron's critique was blunt and to the point. Joseph had missed the mark entirely.
Joseph, I'm sorry to be harsh, man, but you completely missed the boat on the message here with this task.
It was so sloppy with no evident synergy between the ingredients. But it was Waxman's assessment that really stung the most. He essentially said that it lacked quintessential Californian charm. You know, the delicacy, the purity, the precision. He could only articulate his feelings as flummoxed.
How you arrived at this result, I'm flummoxed.
As for Joe, he decided to rip him apart in his usual style.
It looks like a dump bucket. What a waste.
Ouch, just ouch. But sometimes the challenges the contestants face are totally unexpected. Like what happened in Season 7, Episode 8's Elimination Challenge, when Chef Ramsay wheeled out some of the most appetizing proteins you can ever eat. I'm talking pig's ears, bull's testicles, chicken's feet, lamb tongue, and pork tail. So good. Safe to say, these ingredients would need a ton of love to make them work.
These are some of the cheapest and most underused cuts of meat. The bits that they can all be delicious if you cook them right.
Anyway, with a tight 45 minutes on the clock, they dashed to the pantry for their awful ingredients. No, not awful, awful. Anyway, Diane took a shot at making menudo from her tripe, boldly tweaking it for a crispier punch.
I've never cooked tripe
I've
before.
tasted it before.
Nope.
There's a line in the stomach.
Yep.
Amidst the judges' deliberation, Chef Ramsay's concern over Diane's dish became really apparent, and of course, he was right.
Diana doesn't seem to know what she's doing. She hasn't got a grasp on that. I think she understands how bland that tripe is.
Remember the infamous fossilized cornmeal chicken? But oh boy did she fumble. Aiming to wow with her spicy flavors, she presented her tripe menudo jazzed up with corn and jalapenos.
Where is it?
Like I said, Chef, there's very small pieces.
I see little speckles of white bits. Is that it?
Yes, Chef.
Like here?
Yes, Chef.
Chef Ramsay had to literally excavate the dish to find the tripe, only to discover it was as raw as the day that it was born.
It's a really horrible, spongy. No, I can't even pull it.
Since she had no idea how to fix the raw stomach lining, she simply minced it up into tiny pieces, buried it into her broth, and tried to play it cool, but Chef Ramsay wasn't a fool.
I took the pieces and I cut them because they were very chewy and I didn't want you to get a mouthful of just chew. I was just trying to hide the fact that it was raw.
He called her out for the cardinal sin of the night, trying to mask the undercooked meat. And it wasn't even a good cover-up job. Sadly for her, her half-baked effort wasn't enough to keep her from getting kicked off the show. And she kinda deserved it. But here comes another mystery box that gave the contestants quite a tough time. I'm talking about Season 8, when a MasterChef branded surprise awaited the cooks. Think chicken breasts, carrots, potatoes, ground beef, canned tomatoes, and the like. A comforting array of familiar ingredients.
The basics. You couldn't level the playing field any more than we have tonight.
Right, so Mark, confident as ever, let out a victory cry.
Yeah! Nailed that!
But hold up, because that celebration might have been a bit premature. After the frantic hour of cooking, Chef Ramsay declared the spotlight was on 3 cooks, whose creations had completely missed the mark.
Tonight, you 3 stood out for all the wrong reasons.
Way to turn those smiles upside down, huh? Like you saw, Mark was on the chopping block. His breakfast ensemble of pancakes, hash browns, and fruit lovingly drenched in caramel sauce turned out to be a nauseating experience for Christina Tossi, and she had the biggest sweet tooth in the room.
It has problems. It's undercooked. Seeing raw apple and raw banana just stuck on the plate is like the finesse isn't there.
She nearly gagged at the sight of Mark's undercooked pancake and turned her nose up at the fruit that he'd butchered. To add insult to injury, she compared his chunk of hash browns to, well, a piece of meat.
It's underwhelming and disappointing to say the least.
So, while the others moved to the safety of the balcony, Mark, Sam, and Heather weren't as fortunate. Their chance for a do-over arrived swiftly, a shot to learn from the judges' feedback. With familiar ingredients and a tighter time frame, they faced a crucial choice. They could either recreate their flawed dishes to display some improvement, or craft a new creation to reassert their standing in the competition. As Sam and Heather hustled to prepare their own dishes, Sam opted for meatloaf and potatoes once again. On the other hand, Heather whipped up some chicken kebabs and fries, while Mark appeared to have taken a more leisurely approach. He was his usual overconfident self.
Come on, Mark, pick it up. I've been in this position in my life before. Pressure is my middle name.
We'll see, buddy. Observing from the safety of the balcony, the other competitors commented on his languid movements, jokingly referring to his actions as slow-mo. Meanwhile, Christina paid a visit to Mark's station, curious about his culinary game plan.
This is an elimination challenge. If you aren't pushing yourself, I'm not interested in having you in this kitchen anymore.
Agreed.
Oh, she was pissed. Mark explained his twist on the breakfast dish, mentioning his addition of chocolate chips to the pancakes and his attempt at baking eggs in the oven. However, Christina, who was getting real tired of his constant football references, couldn't help but ask why he was sticking with that gimmick of all things. Mark, who was completely unfazed, blamed it on his athletic background. But Christina didn't see that athleticism in his relaxed pace and had no choice but to interpret it as a lack of investment or care in the competition.
I don't know if you guys feel this way, but for me, it looks like Mark doesn't care.
And well, she wasn't wrong. Sometime later during Chef Ramsay's visit to Heather's station, he offered some crucial advice. He cautioned her against the risk of dry chicken breast when cooked on skewers. However, Mark chimed in with a cocky comment, advising Heather to follow his lead and ignore the feedback.
You know what you could do, Heather? Just do what I do and ignore them.
Yes, of course, oh wise one. Don't know if he was trying to be funny or what, but Chef Ramsay wasn't having it.
Young man, is this a joke for you? No, we'll take it serious. We'll take your apron off.
Seriously.
The balcony crew couldn't help but whisper in confusion. In a straight-to-camera moment, one contestant bluntly said that Mark didn't seem to care much about the competition, thinking that the whole world revolved around him.
Mark thinks the world stops for him. Not today, baby.
Righto, buckaroo. Later on, Chef Ramsay put Mark on the spot, asking if he felt like he'd improved. Mark confidently served up his sweet chocolate chip pancakes and baked eggs, claiming that he stepped up his game big time. But Chef Ramsay wasn't buying that crap. He pressed Mark, wondering if this was truly his A-game or if he was just going through the motions.
That is tough to look at.
But Mark stuck to his guns, insisting that it was his best, leaving Christina and the entire crew visibly taken aback.
I successfully completed the 28th sweep, and I think I scored a touchdown.
However, this attempt didn't quite land very well, as someone from the balcony disdainfully called him a douche. Chef Ramsay's assessment of Mark's food had both positive and probing aspects. While acknowledging its pleasant taste and beautiful cooking, Chef Ramsay questioned Mark's time management, noting his last-minute rush compared to Sam and Heather.
My big question is, did you maximize those 45 minutes? But with 90 seconds left, just waltzed up, put your plate down.
When Christina tasted Mark's breakfast, she noted its proper cooking, but expressed doubt about whether chocolate chip pancakes and baked eggs alone would be enough to secure victory. However, in a dramatic reveal, the famous chef's announcement initially hinted at Sam facing elimination. But it turned out to be a fake-out. Both Sam and Heather received the green light to head upstairs, securing their safety for another round. However, the same wasn't true for Mark.
Mark, tonight's second attempt of your American breakfast wasn't good enough.
Ramsay delivered the news that Mark's dish fell short, lacking the desired passion and hunger.
I, personally, don't think you are quite ready to become America's next MasterChef.
Of course, he was personally offended. I mean, who in their right mind challenges Chef Ramsay at his own game? But finally taking the critique gracefully, Mark thanked the judges, removed his white apron, and left the competition. Now here comes another contestant who should have gotten the boot way earlier than she did. In episode 8's elimination challenge, Yachicha presented her creation. It was a sweet and hot salmon dish paired with braised Swiss chard, Tuscan white beans, and a citrus cream sauce with some high hopes. However, Chef Ramsay's response was a stark contrast to her expectations. He criticized the dish, highlighting that she had twice the time Jeff had, but delivered something he deemed repulsive.
Twice the amount of time that Jeff had, and it looks disgusting.
Her smile quickly faded as Chef Ramsay responded with nothing but disappointment, expecting a dish of that caliber from someone who had merely 10 minutes to cook. His critiques didn't stop there. He sliced into the salmon, but there was nothing positive about the quality.
The salmon's hammered. It's not even dry, it's not even pink, it's hammered. I've served better fish than my cat.
It was a catastrophe. What's more, upon tasting it, he promptly spat it out, declaring that she had completely botched the dish.
What upsets me, your flavor profile is unique. You cook like a dream sometimes, but you've just absolutely screwed that dish 100%.
He made it clear to Yachicha that her only hope was that someone behind her had made an even worse dish.
That is the worst dish I've seen at this stage in the competition in history.
Well, that's saying something. So, what other dishes would you like to add to this list? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my next one right here since it's even better.